Welcome to Bedtime Stories with Sapha Burnell. Today we are reading Chapter 18 of my new novel Char and Ash, where you find out what Zeus has been up to all these freaking years. If you want a copy of Char and Ash, please go to books2read.com/charandash or visit saphaburnell.com for more information. Here we go. Let's do this like NPR style. All right, here we go. Creaky Acres Nursing Home. Yeah, I caught him slipping his hand up Mrs. Faulkner's skirt again. Gave him some lorazepam and a cookie. Should settle him down. The nurse leaned her elbows against the white laminate of the nursing station at the Creaky Acres Nursing Home with a shake of her head. The man was persistent for a limp old fart. Mrs. Faulkner settled. She's fine. Apparently she was glad for the attention from a god. Blimey, I get that confused, but put my meds in my pudding. Oh, Dr. Lucas ordered the lorazepam? Another nurse sat behind the nursing station desk, flipped through files on an updated computer, and made a notation on one chart. He pushed her glasses up her nose with the cap end of her pen as Mrs. Weidler pulled herself along in her wheelchair by each padded foot, the way she did every day. Never her hands on the wheels, always that same aching plod in the old fall risk. Whenever we need it, Daddy Thunder isn't about to get his rocks off with the ladies for 8 to 12. Another shake of her head, and the nurse turned round to lean against the station counter. The south module of the Creaky Acres nursing home, like the rest of it, was far enough outside Milwaukee only the die-hard families came to visit. Elderly people sat in Scotch-guarded chairs, walkers set beside or canes leaned on the wingbacks. At one table, two men played checkers, sipping the coffee their carers poured them when they were feeling generous or needed a smile. A story about the old country of Oak County. Amidst the relative cleanliness of once new linoleum and matching chairs, the elderly who needed extra help or whose families couldn't afford other places lived in relative comfort. Of course they did. Copus Industries gave out enough stipends, didn't they? The TV in the corner played reruns from Hogan's Heroes and MASH, old war films like The Great Escape, Tora, Midway, Stalag 13, Victory, Downfall, Sons of Anarchy on DVD. Their collection of war materials used to sit on a bespoke cabinet engraved with a bronze plate. Donated by Ares and Hef Olympia, Zeus's Boys. Now, only the technological device which looked like an off-brand cable box sat on the shelves, beside the biggest TV on the market. Replaced annually for another plaque each time, the old television doffed off to a youth center, school, or usually a nurse's family. Donated by Ares and Hef Olympia, Zeus's Boys.
Wonder if your boys will be by any time soon to add more movies to our box, Zeusy.
Frederick leaned forward in his chair and used his cane tapped at the knee of a man dressed in brown and yellow plaid trousers, a yellow dress shirt tucked in, cuffs halfway up forearms covered in white, downy arm hair. Around his neck, gold chains with a lightning bolt pendant sat atop another tuft of white hair on his chest. Zeus groaned, creaked open, eyes older than the dirt of the world, and peered around. He smacked clammy lips, reached for a plastic cup with a lid and a straw, and fumbled it. Looks like Daddy Thunder's done and gone woke up. Ought to fill his glass before he tries to conjure the rains and pees himself again. The nurse shook her head, pushing off the sidewall of the nursing station. Don't worry, I got him.
I said your boys should come soon. Put more movies and shows on the box. Nice they play all hours and all, but how many times we got to see all them war movies? Might try putting on Driving Miss Daisy or The Color Purple.
Hate my sons. Zeus garbled his tongue in his mouth, reached for the cup just out of reach without shifting an arm on his wheelchair. Half the time folk thought he was struck by a stroke, speaking languages more ancient than these mere humans' understanding. I got you, Mr. Olympia. Here's a nice cup of ice water. Here, suck! Suck on it. Suck harder. There you go. The nurse leaned down to put the straw in Zeus's mouth, waited for him to close his lips around it and suckle water like milk from a teat. Zeus's eyes cranked a little more open with the angle of the nurse's scrubs. He slowed down the suckle on the straw. She pulled back and set the water down, then unlocked the wheels of his wheelchair and set him beside Frederick and the TV. There you go. Now you can watch your movies. Your son tells us you love all these old war movies. Mine remind me of him. Zeus sniffed and angled his face away, the screen too tempting to zap, the south module of the Creaky Acres nursing home too depressing. Little shit. Oh, everyone here should be so lucky. You know your son gave us a high-speed internet. Now your kids can download movies to the box anytime they want. Keep you up to date on new releases. Here, why don't I put one on for you, eh? Any preference, Mr. Iverson? Got any Gal Gadot? I'll have to check. The nurse clicked through the menus until a panel illuminated one. Ah, here we go. You're from Rome, right? Or was it Greece? Here, you watch it, and in a bit it'll be time for dinner and pudding. Zeus's eyes leveled on the woman. His lips worked as the ancient magics of his birthright burbled up through his stomach, up his chest, up the esophagus until the power which crowned him king of Olympus with his dominance, with his might, descended upon the mere mortals of his prison. A resounding, burbled burp. On the screen, threaded through the pristine sound system mastered just so to not compete with hearing aids and monitors, a sword and sandal epic played. Zeus's eyes narrowed. He tried once more to conjure the lightning of his youth, the power which leveled mountains and took princesses, maids, and goddesses to bed. He would do it, master of the lightning bolt, god king of Olympus. He would destroy the altar to Ares' many successful campaigns. Each film, each TV show, each bit of documentaries on the rise of women, feminist literature, old war campaigns was as much a middle finger up Zeus's ass as the drugs the mortals shoved into his divine blood for him to piss out hours later. Damn Asclepius. Damn him for becoming a doctor who could write orders on bits of paper like some... The screen on the film shifted. 3 men wore togas and talked over wine served by slim servant women in what appeared to be a poorly constructed bathhouse. Zeus smacked his lips and sat dull-eyed in the chair, retribution forgotten, as one of the men grabbed a serving girl and towed her into his lap. She yelped and Zeus's fingers curled on the armrest of the wheelchair. Oh, sorry about that. Hold on. The nurse descended, picked up the remote from the cabinet, and fast-forwarded the scene. Zeus moaned, head lolled to the side as he eyed the usurper. She would rue every day she paid attention to his machinations. I know, Mr. Olympia. I forgot there was sex in this one. Your sons told me all about your aversions. I'll remember to put on something more docile next time. He groaned and leaned forward, the belt around his waist keeping him firm in the chair after the 4th fall risk turned into a family meeting with a well-dressed eldest son in his fine Italian suit, black button-down, and gold cufflinks. The middle boy was much rougher, long gray hair and beard oiled and straightened, clad in black jeans and a leather jacket with patches from the local motorcycle club. Crutch always stood beside his chair with perfect balance. The nurse remembered their medical director talking about the new conference room equipment installed by Hef Olympia that day. Oh, it's no trouble. So their sister with her swept back black curls attended, adding dignity to the gray turtleneck, the rimmed spectacles and proud aristocratic nose. Professor Athenia Olympia, lecturer in Bologna. It wasn't too late in Italy for the professor to make her appearance, not for their dear daddy. The fall rest meant new medications, a physical therapist to help their darling father walk, maybe one day if his hip didn't give out, maybe surgery on the table. Surgery never happened, the hip never replaced, and the PT was both firm and aggressively male. Hey, you know, half your friends would love a quarter of the attention your kids give you. Oh, you're so lucky. By the way, you got a phone call from your grandniece. She's coming to visit later. Enjoy the movie. The nurse walked off, a humming song on the back of her mind she'd never remember. Zeus's fingernails dug into the soft foam of the wheelchair's arms, his toes curled and the slippers tailor-made to look like loafers, chosen from a catalog of accessibility wear for the elderly gentleman. He clenched his teeth and shut his eyes, leaning back in the chair until Frederick tapped at his shoulder with his cane. Sweet, doting relief. Maybe Morpheus would pity him this time round, and he would dance on Hellas's fields, the frightened but intrigued eyes of indecently dressed maidens. Hey, Zeusy! You're gonna miss the battle, buddy! Don't fall asleep till the end! Don't worry, I'll remind you. Frederick gave a snaggletooth smile, slipped his cane against the arm of the chair, and shifted so one foot was on the ottoman in front of his wingback. Another gift, the furniture brought in from Hef's shop when the home's old stuff got worn. The entire place, every cubit a temple to forgotten people, the elders none wanted to recognize or toilet in their homes. Zeus sat back to watch the hero don his armor, valiant red linen under bronze plate, cringed at the inaccuracy. Who had swords like that? How did he remember what those swords were like? He never used something as undignified. Then the nurse's babble sunk through the addled mind of the once great king of 11. Grandniece? What grandniece would visit him? Which of his children had a daughter alive at all? Harmonia? No, she would never be caught within a continent of him after he made a game of betting each one of her luscious friends. What of Apollo's kids? No, they were mostly dead or gone. Zeus's eyes narrowed, the tempest gray of his irises flickered with a mote of power, a mote of the godhood he knew. He flicked the locks off his wheelchair's wheels and turned the chair to leave the room. Use the talkie box Ares gave him, which spoke with the voice of a strangely distant accent from Mycenae. A youth who sounded altogether too much like Alcippe mixed with some labyrinthine puzzle. Lunch! Here, let me help you, Mr. Olympia. Zeus cursed in a language too ancient and dignified for the human to catch, as Jimmy, Luann's boy, who volunteered every Thursday for high school credit, wheeled him into the dining hall for soup and a sandwich. But, I was going to use the talkie box. Unhand me, cur! Well, at least he could use a turkey club. Anything other than tuna. By the time Jimmy engaged the wheel locks on Zeus's wheelchair, the king of the gods had quite forgotten suspicious visitors, Ares' war library, and rebellious sons bettering their fathers. He'd forgotten every single thing, the smell of olive groves in the baking summer sun, the glint of oiled bodies during the games, the wafting salt of the Aegean. Poseidon was ever in a twist over receiving the sea as his right instead of Olympus. Could have been worse. He could have been with Hades. Even that faded away from the once royal. Zeus remembered nothing of heroes or princesses and their fallen hemlines, the stretched bellies. The damned kitchen made tuna melts again. Here you go, Mr. Olympia. Oh, your favorite. Jimmy set down a tapioca pudding, and Zeus felt the crumbling ache of eternal defeat by sons and a daughter who didn't even give him the dignity of a final blow. And that is Chapter 18 of Char and Ash by me, Sapha Burnell, in which we find out what's been happening to Zeus for the last 50 to 75 years.